Now let's look at adding and subtracting square roots. And the key rule with adding and subtracting square roots is you can only add them if what's underneath the square root sign is the same. So the easiest way to see that is 5 square root of 3 plus 6 square root of 3. Let's look at this. We have square root of 3 and square root of 3. What's under the square root is exactly the same, so we'll be able to add those. And that's 11 square root of 3. Notice that's very similar to simply 5x plus 5x plus 6x is 11x. But the other key rule is if we had something like 5 square root of 3 plus 6 square root of 2, you can't add it. That's all you can do. So it's similar to the idea of like terms. 5x plus 6x is equal to 11x, which means 5 square root of 3 plus 6 square root of 3 is 11 square root of 3. In other words, if you have 5 of something and 6 of something, you have 11 of something. But 5x plus 6y you can't simplify. 5 square root of 3 and 6 square root of 2 you can't simplify in the same way. So the rules are almost identical. So let's look at a real quick example. We have 6 root 3 plus 9 root 5 plus 10 root 3. So the first thing that we notice is that this is a root 3 and this is a root 3, so we'll be able to combine these two terms, and our answer would be 16 root 3 plus 9 root 5. And that's the first idea. The second idea is a little subtler and a little trickier, and that is that if the roots are not the same, you still have to go further. And the easiest way to think of this is, let's look at just another example. So let's go 10 root 80 plus 8 root 5 minus 3 root 2. Now, let's look at what's underneath the roots. 80, 5, and 2. Are they the same? None of them are the same. So we can't combine any of them. But before we stop, we have to simplify each root. That's the key rule. The key is you have to simplify the roots. And then after you simplify each root, then see if you can combine them. So let's simplify square root of 80. We find two numbers that multiply to 80, one of which is a perfect square. I think that's 16 and 5. That's right. So that's square root of 16, square root of 5. So that square root of 16 is 4. So that's 4 root 5. So it's 10 times 4 root 5. So that's 40 root 5. 8 root 5 is already simplified, right? You can't simplify root 5 anymore. 2, you can't simplify that anymore. So after you simplify, then you combine. Root 5, root 2. These two you can combine. That's 40 plus 8. That's 48 root 5 minus 3 root 2. Let's look at another example. Let's look at 5 root 12 minus 2 root 75. So first let's see if what's underneath the root's the same. This is a root 12 and root 75. So you can't combine them. So the next step we want to do is we want to simplify both of these. Root 12 would be root 4 and root 3. Root 4 is 2, so that's 5 times 2 root 3, so that's 10 root 3. And this is 75. 75 would be 25 and 3. And 25, root 25 is 5, so that's minus 2 times 5 times root 3, so that's minus 10 root 3. Now you have 10 root 3 minus 10 root 3, which is 0 root 3, but 0 times root 3 is just 0. One more example that they throw in a lot. Let's look at 6 square root of 18 plus 10 square root of 25 plus 2 square root of 50. None of the roots are the same, so let's simplify each one. This one would be 9 and 2. that square root of 9 is 3, so that's 6 times 3 root 2, so that's going to be 18 root 2. Root 25 is just 5, so that's 10 times 5, that's just 50. And this is 2 root 50. Root 50 would be 25 and 2. That's a 5 root 2. 2 times 5 root 2 would be plus 10 root 2. See if anything's the same now. That's a root 2 and root 2. That's 28 root 2 plus 50. And that's how you do it. Let's look at one more problem, just because students get a little tripped up on it. Let's say we had 6 root 18 plus 2 root 75 minus 3 root 120. None of the roots are the same, so what we want to do is we want to simplify each one. So that's square root of 9 and square root of 2. That becomes 3 root 2, and it's 6 times that, so that's 18 root 2. This one's 75, two numbers that multiply to 75, that's 25 and 3. Square root of 25 is 5, that's 2 times 5, root 3, so that's going to be 10 root 3. And then 120 is 4 and 30, so that's 2 root 30 times minus 3, that's a negative 6 root 30. Let's see if we can simplify square root of 30. I might use a calculator to try to do that. It turns out it can't simplify, so let's see what's the same. Nothing's the same. So this is your final answer. So I'm not sure why, but sometimes when you're asked to simplify, you just assume that one of them can combine, and that's not. So that's the rule, and that's how you add and subtract square roots.